You feel it, without needing to ask, without needing to insist. The date arrives, you wake up expecting something that you already know won't come. The phone is silent. Your heart is noisy. It was supposed to be different. It was supposed to be inevitable. It was supposed to be sacred. But it's not. What once brought you together now only drives you apart. What used to be a reason for presence is now an excuse for absence. It doesn't hurt because they forgot the day. It hurts because they forgot you. And in this silent emptiness, you realize that it's no longer longing. It's no longer absence. It's true abandonment. It's a choice. It's not wanting anymore. You feel what no one says. You perceive what no one has the courage to admit. And then in the silence of your own celebration, you understand. It wasn't distraction. It was a decision. You feel it. It's no longer a doubt. It's no longer a supposition. It's raw perception. Direct. Indisputable. The day arrives. The clock wakes you up like any other. But inside you, something awakens differently. An old silent expectation still insists on living, as if something in you still believes. You wait for that message, that call, that small sign, almost trivial but full of life. But nothing comes, and the absence starts to weigh. At first you try to justify it. Maybe they're busy, maybe they forgot, maybe they'll still send something. But time passes. The silence grows. And inside you something finally breaks. It wasn't forgetfulness, it wasn't carelessness, it was a choice. You realize that for those who care, neither time nor distance nor excuses serve as barriers. You realize that for those who truly feel, a birthday wouldn't just be another date. It would be a chance, an opportunity, a reminder. But for those who have already left you, even that doesn't matter anymore. You look at the lit screen of your phone, at the empty notifications, at the conversations frozen in time, and you feel a pain that you don't exactly know where it resides, but you feel it. With an unsettling clarity, you realize that you've become a memory, not because someone said so, not because someone explained it to you, but because you felt it, in your flesh, in the space, in the silence that's now your home. If this has happened to you, comment here. I needed to realize this. How many times did you try to convince yourself it was just a phase? How many times did you defend those who abandoned you to yourself? How many excuses did you come up with to avoid facing what was already obvious? You now realize it wasn't distraction. It was a felt absence. It was a planted lack. It was a decided detachment. And it hurts. It hurts to realize that you still remembered. It hurts to realize that you still hoped. It hurts to realize that even after so much, you still wanted to believe. But silence has its own way of teaching. Without words, without effort, without mercy. It shows you who stayed, who left, who was never really there. Today you see it. You see that the love that was supposed to help you grow left you waiting. You see that the care that was meant to embrace you turned into emptiness. You see that the presence that was supposed to be a refuge went away without looking back. Not because you were wrong, not because you weren't enough, but because those who chose to leave had already departed long before the body did. The birthday wasn't forgotten, you were. You can't imagine how much this changes everything, the way you look back, the way you view yourself now, the way you decide what you deserve moving forward. You don't beg anymore, you don't justify anymore. You realize that respect isn't something you ask for, that presence isn't something you force, that love that needs to be demanded was never love. If this makes sense to you so far, comment, yes. And now you walk differently. You carry this pain still throbbing in your chest, but you also carry a strength you hadn't noticed before. The strength of someone who understood, the strength of someone who doesn't need proof anymore, the strength of someone who accepted that being remembered by those who erased you is no longer a priority. You realize that your worth doesn't diminish just because someone failed to see it. You realize that your story doesn't become less significant just because someone gave up on the ending. You realize that your light doesn't go out because someone chose the darkness. It's hard, it's heavy, but it's liberating because from this day forward, you no longer live in waiting. You live in awareness, awareness of who is real, awareness of who truly cares, awareness of who won't leave you on your worst day. And believe me, this awareness is worth more than any nostalgia. It's worth more than any late message. It's worth more than any flimsy excuse. The pain will pass, the awareness will remain, and it helps you grow. If this message resonates with you, share it with someone who also needs to realize. How many times have you felt like your absence wouldn't make a difference? How many times did you have to break alone to understand that you were by yourself? Today, you don't need to anymore. You realize. You see. You choose. You choose not to wait. You choose not to beg. You choose not to accept less. You choose to move forward even if it still hurts. You choose to breathe even when the air is thin. You choose to be whole even with missing pieces. And in the midst of this silent reconstruction, you will discover who you are without having to be remembered, who you are without needing validation, who you are without needing to be chosen. You simply are, that's it. And that's everything, because when you realize, when you feel this truth cutting through your soul, there's no turning back. You can't unsee it. You can't undo it. You can't cover up what has been laid bare. You realize it was never about being good enough. It was never about deserving or not deserving. It was never about what you gave, about what you did, about what you endured. It was about the other person, about the silent decision they made while you believed there was still hope. It was about the space you left open that was simply ignored. And it hurts. It hurts because you have always been whole. It hurts because you never hid that you needed very little. It hurts because even asking for so little, they still denied you the basics. You realize that this pain doesn't come from today. It comes from all the times you diminished yourself to fit in. From all the times you accepted crumbs, thinking it was enough. From all the times you smiled on the outside and cried on the inside. And now it's impossible to pretend you don't see it. You see, you feel, you realize. You notice the abandonment that was etched in small gestures. You notice the exhaustion hidden in cold words. You notice the distance planted in the excuses you pretended to believe. And amidst this silent chaos, you find yourself, for the first time, not through the eyes of those who left, not through the emptiness of those who forgot, but through the courage that is born in you now. Courage not to wait, courage not to insist, courage not to beg anymore. If this part touched something inside you, comment, "I'm finding myself." The loneliness that once crushed you, today transforms into space, space to breathe, space to hear yourself, space to rebuild yourself. You realize you don't need permission anymore. You don't need forced reminders anymore. You don't need pushed presence anymore. You need truth, real presence, love that doesn't hide in silence. And if that still feels far away, that's okay. Perception arrives first. Reconstruction comes later. No rush, no shortcuts, no pretense. You realize that being whole hurts more at the beginning, but it hurts much less than living while waiting for pieces. You realize that growing up is accepting to lose those who have long since lost you. You realize that true longing is not for the person who is gone. It's for the person you were before losing yourself trying to be enough for them. And this longing you will heal, day by day, shout by silent shout. You will realize that the greatest gift you can give yourself is not abandoning yourself, that the greatest love you can feel is the one that comes from recognizing yourself as whole, even without an audience, that the biggest revolution you can make is to exist for yourself. If this has made sense so far, write, "I won't abandon myself." The absence that cuts you today will tomorrow just be a memory. The emptiness that seems to scream today will tomorrow be just a distant point on the path. You don't need to erase what you've lived. You don't need to hate those who forgot you. You need to realize that continuing to wait is the only way to hurt yourself again. Realize that continuing to idealize is the only way to lose yourself once more. Realize that those who left you without looking back are not the ones who deserve to see who you're becoming. Not anymore. And perhaps, in some corner of the future, you will still run into those who forgot your birthday, those who forgot your voice, those who forgot your laughter. And in that moment you won't feel anger, not bitterness, not pain. You will feel peace because you will realize that those who vanish, lose, that those who ignore, forget, but those who survive, flourish. If this is resonating with you, comment, "I am flourishing." You will realize that those who didn't have the capacity to stay also wouldn't have the capacity to keep up with who you are becoming. And on that day, you won't ask for love anymore, nor beg for attention, nor diminish yourself to fit into spaces that are too small for you. You will be whole, and being whole is so rare that it scares those who have never been. That's why you feel so much pain now, because you are rebuilding where there were only ruins, because you are strengthening where there was only exhaustion, because you are, for the first time in a long time, realizing you are alive. If this is touching you so far, share this message with those who also need to realize. But no, this journey has no manual. There are no shortcuts. There will be days when the longing hurts as if it were new. There will be days when silence will crush you again. There will be days when you'll doubt whether you're doing the right thing. On those days, remember, realizing hurts. But living without awareness destroys. You are exactly where you need to be, even if it feels too late, even if it feels too small, even if it feels like it's not enough. What matters is not the size of the step, it's the direction. And you have already taken the hardest one. You recognized, and now nothing can stop you anymore. Because when you realize, when you truly realize, it's like opening your eyes for the first time after being trapped in darkness for so long. The light isn't comfortable at first. It hurts. It bothers you. It exposes everything you tried to hide, even from yourself. But there's no going back. You've seen it, you've felt it, you've understood it. What hurt you wasn't the absence itself. It was the time you spent denying the absence. It was the energy you wasted trying to convince yourself that there was still something where only dust remained. And it hurts. It hurts to realize that often what keeps people close isn't love, it's convenience. It hurts to realize that what you gave with purity was received with disdain. It hurts to realize that you gave your all and were forgotten as if you were nothing. But it's at this point that something inside you changes. You stop looking for someone to blame. You stop seeking explanations. You stop trying to rewrite a story that was never your responsibility to fix. You simply realize. You realize that it's not about being enough for someone else. It's about being whole for yourself. You realize that whoever lost you didn't recognize what they had in their hands. And perhaps they never will, but you recognized now, here. If this resonates with you, write, I am awake. And in this painful awakening, in this brutal opening of eyes, you begin to see the little details that went unnoticed before. You notice how your body was warning you, the fatigue with no reason, the tightness in your chest disguised as anxiety, the emptiness disguised as distraction. You notice how your soul was screaming, in the silences that you tried to fill, in the invitations you accepted to avoid being alone, in the conversations where only you spoke. Everything was already there, screaming, whispering, begging for you to notice. And now you notice. You realize that abandonment never started with the other person. It started within you. The moment you accepted crumbs hoping to build a feast. The moment you silenced your own voice to avoid causing a stir. The moment you forgot about yourself to not lose someone who no longer wanted to stay. And understanding this is brutal, but it's also liberating. Because now you know. You know you can choose differently. You know you can listen to yourself before giving to others. You know you can respect yourself before seeking acceptance. You realize that the loneliness of being alone hurts much less than the loneliness of being in bad company. You realize that being forgotten by someone is infinitely better than forgetting about yourself. And in that space between pain and rebirth, you begin to rebuild yourself, brick by brick, day by day, tear by tear. You start to listen to yourself. And at first it feels strange. The silence is frightening. The emptiness echoes. But gradually you start to perceive. You begin to realize that within this silence dwells your true voice. You start to recognize that within this emptiness lies your true essence. You come to understand that what felt like loneliness was just space for you to finally be who you are. If you feel this blossoming within you, comment, I am being reborn. And in this rebirth without an audience, you realize that your life no longer needs to be validated by anyone's applause, that you no longer have to wait for the congratulations of those who never saw your light, that you no longer have to beg for attention on special occasions, Because every day is special for those who truly see you. You realize that your story matters, even if no one celebrates it, even if no one recognizes it. You see that your path is sacred, even if others try to downplay it. You realize that your existence is reason enough to be celebrated, to be respected, to be honored. And in that brutal realization, freedom is born, freedom to let go without hate, without bitterness, without the need for revenge, freedom to move forward light-hearted, to move forward whole, to move forward true. And if one day someone who forgot you tries to come back, you will realize that it no longer hurts. Realize that it no longer matters. Realize that what was left behind is no longer necessary for your journey. You will see that the true victory was never to be remembered. It was learning to remember yourself every day, in every step, in every choice. And in that moment you will understand it is that those who learn to perceive never accept less than they deserve. If this realization is resonating within you, comment, "I will never accept less again," because what begins now is not a new beginning. It is not a patch-up. It is not a continuation. It is a new story, written by you, lived by you, felt by you, and no one can take that away from you. No one. Share it with those who need it. Comment on your perception, leave a like, and subscribe to the channel.